Hey guys, so today we are going to factor, we're going to solve equations, but they're going to be different than like quadratic equations. They could be cubic, okay? They might have 4 terms instead of 3. If you look at the example I have right here, it's just a binomial. It should say equals 0, okay? All right, I'm not going to do too many examples of this. Actually, I'm not even going to complete this, but I'm going to show you how to get started on something like this. If you have 2y to the 5th minus 18y cubed, we're going to try to bring out the biggest monomial factor. Okay, so if you look at this, a 2 and an 18 have a 2 in common, so I could write down a 2. And then what's the biggest y value that I can take out? Well, the biggest y value would be y cubed, so y to the 3rd power. Then you put your parentheses, and what's left here, this times what gives you this? Well, it's just y squared, okay? Minus this times what gives you the 18y cubed, just a 9, okay? Equals 0. Now it's factored, but if you notice, this can still be factored. That's a difference of squares, so we can finish factoring it as this, 2y cubed. This will factor into this, equals 0. And so we have y here and y here. We have 3 here, and plus and minus. And now we can solve by saying 2y cubed equals 0, y plus 3 equals 0, and y minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so you can solve from there, okay? Let me show you another example, all right? What if I have something like this, 4z to the 4th minus 16z cubed plus 16z squared equals 0, okay? So now we can look at each term here. They all have a 4 in common, okay? The biggest value of z that I can take out would be z squared, okay? The biggest one will, just a hint, the biggest one will always be the smallest one that you see, so z squared, okay? All right, we've taken everything out. Now let's put parentheses. 4z squared times what gives you that? Just a z squared, okay? Minus 4z squared times what gives you that? I'm going to say 4z, okay? And then 4z squared times what gives you that? So plus 4 equals 0. And now look, we can probably factor that. So we get 4z squared times equals 0. We have z times z gives me the z squared. Oh, I didn't mean to put that, sorry. All right, so z times z, all right. And what times what gives me 4? I'd say 2, okay. And if they're both subtracted, I'll get the negative 4z in the middle. And now you could finish by saying 4z squared equals 0, z minus 2 equals 0, and z minus 2 equals 0. You'll get 2 of the same answer right there, okay? All right, so that's how you're gonna get going with monomial factors, but let's do something you may not have seen before. Actually, everything else is gonna be stuff you haven't seen. So part B, I'll just pick sum and difference of cubes, okay? Sum and difference of cubes. All right, and here's a simple example. We have x cubed plus 8. Notice that x cubed is a perfect cube, 8 is a perfect cube, 2 times 2 times 2, and this is the sum of 2 perfect cubes, okay? So this is the basic way you're going to do these, okay? You're going to put room for a binomial and then room for a trinomial, okay? And basically, you're just going to take the cubed root of this. The cubed root of x cubed is x, okay? You're going to take the cubed root of that. That's just 2, okay? It's actually positive 8, so the cubed root of positive 8 is positive 2. Okay, and you put that. All right, so now you're going to have room for a trinomial right here, okay? 3 terms, okay? What, this x times what gives you x cubed? Well, it's just x squared, okay? All right, and this 2 times what gives you 8? Well, it's 4, okay? And now all you have to do is multiply these two things together. So x times 2 is 2x, so put that guy in the middle, okay? And here's what you need to do. If this sign is plus, then this sign will be the opposite, okay, so negative, okay? And then this sign right here will always be a plus, okay? All right, and if it's equal to 0, let's just say it equals 0, then you're going to say, well, let's see if this factors for, that doesn't factor, okay? So it's going to be x plus 2 equals 0, and x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0, okay? And then here, you could do that quickly. Here, if it doesn't factor, what do you have to use? That's right, you have to use the quadratic formula. Or in this case, you can actually solve this one pretty quick by completing the square, okay? All right, so that's that. Let me just think about something real quick. Okie doke, here we go. Let's do one more example like this. I'll see if I can't make it any more challenging. Let's see. Well, let's just do another one just like this since you've never done this before. Let's do x cubed minus 27. Okay, let's just say equals 0. Okay, so again, put room for a binomial, then a trinomial, and then equals 0. Okay, here we have the cubed root of x cubed, so that's just x. Here we have the cubed root of 27, so that's 3, okay? Actually, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's the cubed root of negative 27, which is negative 3, okay? All right. And now, all you need is the trinomial, 3 terms, right? So x times what gives you x cubed? Well, that's x squared, okay? 3 times what gives you 27, okay? Or negative 3 times what gives you negative 27, and that's 9, positive 9, okay? All right, and what goes in the middle here is just x times the 3, right? Okay, so put a 3x here. And remember, whatever sign this is, this one's always the opposite, so put a plus. And then this guy right here is always going to be positive, always, no matter what, okay? And then, does this factor? This doesn't factor, so you're going to make your 2 equations, okay? And I'll let you finish that. Here, I'll just set it up. So x minus 3 equals 0, and we have x squared plus 3x plus 9 equals 0. And then from there, if this doesn't factor, quadratic formula, okay? This guy is pretty easy to solve. All right, so let's do part C. Actually, I have another example. Let's try something like this. What if I have something like this? 5x cubed plus 625 equals 0. What would I have to do in that case? Okay, because that's not a perfect cube. 5 is not a perfect cube, and neither is 625. So if you said, oh, factor out a monomial, you're right. So the biggest number they have in common is a 5, okay? You can't take an x out of both of them, okay? So you can put 5 and then parentheses, okay? Then we have the x cubed plus 6, let's see, 5 goes into that 125 times, okay, equals 0. And now look, we have a sum of 2 perfect cubes, okay? And then you can finish off that way, okay? All right, let's do something different. How about C? This is factor by grouping. Okay, and I have an example for you. I have 4x to the 4th power minus 20x squared plus 24, okay? And let's just say it says equals 0, why not, okay? This is not what I want. That is really weird. Oh, I'm copying, no wonder, I'm copying the wrong thing. I'm sorry, guys. Let me just erase that really quick. That's not good if I'm trying to save time. I copied down the wrong problem. Shoot. Okay, let's try this again. X cubed minus 3x squared plus 16x minus 48 equals 0, okay? All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna kind of like cut this guy in half. That's not a mathematical symbol, by the way. I'm just kind of showing you that we can take this half, okay, and then this half right here, okay? So look at these two. What do they have in common? What's the biggest thing that you could take out? An x squared. So put an x squared, then put what's left, right? X squared times x gives you the x cubed. X squared times negative 3 gives you the negative 3x squared, okay? This guy's a plus, so put that down. I think that's important, okay? Now, what do these two guys have in common? They have a 16 in common, so put down a 16. And what's left? 16 times x gives you 16x, minus 16 times 3 gives you the negative 48. Don't forget equals 0. All right, and now look, we have this times this plus this times this. This right here plus this right here equals 0. But if you notice, they have a common factor. The common factor is x minus 3. So here's the beauty in factoring by grouping. Since they both have a common factor of x minus 3, I'm going to factor out the x minus 3. So I factor out the x minus 3. Okay, they both have an x minus 3 that I could factor out to the front. Every time you factor something out to the front, what do you always put? You always put parentheses next, okay? And what's left? X minus 3 times what gives you this? Well, it's the x squared, okay? Plus x minus 3 times what gives you this? It's the 16, okay? And then it equals 0, and then you can make your two equations. X minus 3 equals 0, x squared plus 16 equals 0. Okay, all right, let's try another one really quick. Let's see, x to the 5th minus 3x to the 4th minus 16x plus 48 equals 0. All right, we'll do the same thing, just kind of cut it down the middle a little bit. Okay, now factor this guy, then factor this guy. So what do they have in common? The biggest thing you could take out is an x to the 4th. So x to the 4th, that's what they have in common. So now put in parentheses, x to the 4th times x gives you that, minus 3 gives you that. Hey, it's another minus 3. Okay, now this guy's a negative, so if you see the negative, put down negative, okay? Now, what do they have in common? Oh, again, it's a 16, okay? So 16, all right? What's left? 16 times what gives you that? X, okay? Now, 16 times what gives you 48? Remember, it's a positive 48, so it's a negative 16 times a negative 3, okay, equals 0. All right, now look, they both have an x minus 3. So factor out an x minus 3 to the front, x minus 3. Once you factor out what they have in common, then put down your parentheses. This times what gives you this, x to the 4th, minus this times what gives you this, 16, okay, equals 0. And now look at this, we have a difference of squares. I know that's a 4th power, but watch this. We have x minus 3 equals 0. Actually, here, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to watch this. I'll break this down. So we have x minus 3. Now this guy right here is a difference of squares. And watch this. This is x squared times x squared. This is 4 times 4 and plus and minus. And here's another difference of squares. So we're not done yet. You ready? We have x minus 3 times, this guy is fine, x squared plus 4, times, this guy breaks up into two more pieces, okay? X times x gives me the x squared. 2 times 2 gives me the 4, put a plus and minus, equals 0. And now all you have to do is write the last step of that equals 0, that equals 0, that equals 0, and that equals 0. All right, I have one more. Hopefully I could get it in before 15 minutes. Here we go. Last example. The race is on. All right, part D. Okay. Let's see, quadratic form. I should be able to get in one example. You trust me? Here we go. Example, as long as I don't copy down the wrong thing. 4x to the 4th minus 20x squared plus 24 equals 0. The race is on. Here we go. Notice it looks like quadratic, okay? So you're going to treat it like one. Quadratic, if you factor it, it looks like that, right? Okay, now ask yourself, what times what gives you 4x to the 4th? I'm just going to say, I don't know, I'm just going to say 4x squared times 1x squared. Okay, I could be totally wrong, and if I am, that's a bummer, all right? Now ask yourself, what times what gives you 24? Okay, I'm going to say 6 times 4, okay? And I'll just put it in this order, 4 and a 6. Okay, so now multiply the insides, you get 4x squared. Multiply the outsides, you get 24x squared, okay? Look up here, how many x squareds am I trying to get? Negative 20 of them, right? Well, if I have a negative 24 and I add 4 of them, I get negative 20 of the x squareds. So the plus goes with the 4, the minus goes there, and I'm pretty much done. 4x squared plus 4 equals 0. X squared minus 6 equals 0. I beat the clock. I hope that was helpful. Peace.